Welcome to the HFY Codex Tale. If you like our videos, keep supporting and subscribe to our channel. The crash in the woods. The night was quiet in the mountains. No cars, no voices, just wind moving through the tall trees. Jay sat outside his small cabin, staring up at the stars. He liked the silence here. No one bothered him. No noise, no war, no cities, just peace. But that night, peace did not last. Suddenly, the sky lit up. A burning shape shot through the stars like a falling fireball. It moved fast, glowing red and white, trailing smoke behind it. It wasn't a meteor. It was something else. And it was coming down fast. Jay stood up quickly. The fireball vanished behind the trees to the west. Then came the sound. Boom! The ground shook, birds flew into the sky, leaves rained down. Something had crashed. And it was close. Into the forest. Jace grabbed his jacket and flashlight. He moved fast, following the smell of smoke and the red light in the sky. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Trees closed in. The air smelled of metal and burning oil. Then he saw it. A small silver ship, broken in two, sat in a clearing. Flames danced across the side. Smoke rose into the sky. One wing was half buried in the dirt. Jay stepped closer. The ship was alien. He had seen pictures on the net before, but never this close. He walked slowly to the main hatch. It was half open. Sparks jumped from a control panel. Then he heard a sound. A weak cough. Someone was inside. A strange girl. Jace pulled the hatch open carefully. Inside it was dark, full of smoke. Panels were crushed. Lights flickered. On the floor, half covered in silver debris, lay a girl. No, not human, not fully. Her skin was smooth and pale with a strange shimmer. Her hair was dark purple, long and tangled. Her suit was torn and covered in blood. Her eyes opened slightly. They were gold, not like contact lenses, real gold, glowing. She looked at Jace. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then she passed out. A choice in the fire. Jace looked around. The ship creaked. Flames were spreading toward the walls. He had no idea who she was. She could be dangerous. She could be alien military or a criminal or worse. But she was hurt. Alone. Bleeding. And something inside Jace told him. He couldn't leave her there. He grabbed a fire blanket from the ship's emergency kit, wrapped her in it, and carried her out. She was heavier than she looked. But he didn't stop. Back to the cabin. By the time he reached his cabin, the sky had gone quiet again. He placed her gently on the couch. Her breathing was shallow. He cleaned the cuts on her head and arm. Her blood was dark blue. She looked peaceful now, but her skin still glowed faintly, like moonlight on water. Jay sat beside her watching. "Who are you?" he whispered. "Where did you come from?" She didn't answer, she just slept. And he had no idea that the girl he had just saved was known across the stars as a lost legend. A name told in hushed tones. A figure most believed was already dead. Ending hook. Out in space, far above the quiet Earth sky. A ship received a faint signal. One line of text appeared on the screen. Target located, she survived, send hunters. Then the signal vanished into the stars. She wakes up fighting. The alien girl opened her eyes slowly. At first, everything was blurry, shadows, lights, shapes. Her body ached. Her head throbbed. Her muscles tensed as if still in battle. Then she remembered. The crash, the hunters, the fire. Her heart began to race. She sat up quickly. Strange walls, wooden beams, old furniture. She wasn't on her ship anymore. She was in a cabin. A quiet room, a warm blanket around her. Too quiet. Too soft. She panicked. The human returns. Footsteps outside, a door opened. Jace stepped inside, holding a glass of water. His eyes widened when he saw her awake. "Hey, you're up, you were out cold, She didn't wait. In one sharp motion, she leapt from the couch and tackled him to the wall. Her arm pressed against his throat. Her eyes glowed gold, her voice cracked. "Who are you? Where am I? What have you done to me?" Jace coughed, hands raised. "Easy, easy. I pulled you from the crash, that's it. She blinked, her breathing slowed just a little. You saved me. Yeah, he gasped. You were dying. She looked into his eyes for a long moment, then slowly let him go. Her name? Jay sat down, rubbing his neck. She stood back watching him, still tense, still ready to fight. What's your name? He asked gently. She hesitated. Vera. He nodded. I'm Jace, you're safe here. She didn't sit, didn't relax. But she wasn't attacking anymore. She doesn't trust easily. Vera walked to the window and looked out. Endless forest, stars above. No ships, no soldiers. They'll come for me, she whispered. Who? Jace asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she touched her side, blood not healed. Her hand trembled just for a second. Jace noticed. I gave you some of my blood, he said. Didn't know if it would help. Her eyes locked on him. You shared your blood with me. Well, yeah, you needed it. She turned away, confused. You don't know who I am? Why would you help me? Because you were hurt. She shook her head slowly. No one helps people like me. The legend in hiding. Later that night, Jay sat by the fire, watching Vera from across the room. She finally sat down, still guarded but calmer. She studied him like a puzzle. You're strange, human. He smiled. You're glowing, I think that makes us even. Vera looked down at her hands. The glow was brighter now. And deep inside her mind, an ancient memory stirred. A voice from long ago. If your blood ever bonds with a human, the seal may break. Vera swallowed hard. She had thought the legend was just myth. But now she wasn't so sure. Ending hook. Far above Earth, on a bounty ship cloaked in orbit. A red light blinked. Target lock confirmed. The hunter smiled. She's alive. And she's not alone. Hunters are coming. The fire crackled softly in the cabin. Jace poured tea into 2 old metal cups, sliding one across the table to Vera, who sat quietly, staring into the flames. She hadn't said much since she woke up, but Jace could tell something was bothering her. Her eyes kept shifting toward the window, her fingers twitched, her glow dimmed and pulsed like a slow warning light. You okay? Jace asked. Vera didn't look at him. No. He leaned in. Talk to me. She finally turned her eyes to his. They found me. The signal she couldn't stop. Vera lifted her hand, showing a strange round device embedded in her wrist. It flickered with soft red light. When my ship crashed, the emergency beacon activated. I tried to shut it down, but... She shook her head. They're already coming. Who? Her voice dropped. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, scavengers, maybe worse. Jace stood up, already grabbing a flashlight and reaching for his old backpack. Then we runned. Vera didn't move. You don't get it, they're not after you, they're after me. Doesn't matter. It should, she snapped. They'll kill you. Jace paused and looked her dead in the eyes. Not if I stay by your side. The silent tracker. Far above Earth, a sleek hunter ship broke through low orbit. Its hull shimmered like a shadow, invisible to most scanners. Inside, a tall figure adjusted the dial on his wrist. Target moving. He zoomed in on the blinking red light on his screen, Vera's beacon. A second voice crackled through the comm. Bring her back alive if you can, dead if you must. The hunter smiled behind his mask. Understood. Preparing to leave. Back at the cabin, Vera tore open one of Jace's old gear lockers. She scanned his supplies with a soldier's eye. Old tech, no defenses, no signal jammers. Sorry, Jace said. Didn't expect to host space royalty. Her head snapped toward him. Don't call me that. Jace blinked. Wait, you are royalty. Vera looked away. I was something important, long ago, before they betrayed me. He stepped closer. And now you're hunted for being alive. She nodded slowly. And you're risking everything for someone you barely know. Jace gave a small smile. You're not just someone. You were bleeding, scared, alone. That's all I needed to know. The bond grows. Vera stared at him. No one in the galaxy had ever said something like that to her. Not without a price. Not without a hidden reason. You're strange, human. So I've been told. She touched the side of her ribs, still sore, still glowing. The blood bond, it was growing. And now it wasn't just keeping her alive. It was making her feel again. Ending hook. Suddenly, outside the cabin. A sharp noise. Metal clicking. Boots crunching the snow. Jace and Vera froze. A shadow passed the window. Then another's. Too late, she whispered. They're here. The secret in her blood. Outside the cabin, the woods had gone silent. No wind, no birds, no sounds of life. Just heavy footsteps circling in the snow. Jace grabbed an old hunting knife from a drawer. It looked useless next to what Vera was facing, but he held it tight anyway. Vera stood by the door, glowing just slightly now. Her eyes locked onto the sound of movement. Her face was calm, but her breathing was tight. How many? Jace whispered. 3, maybe 4, all armed. Can we fight? She turned to him slowly. Not yet, but soon. Something changing inside her. Vera winced suddenly and stumbled. Jace rushed forward. What's wrong? She held her side, where the wound had been. The skin there was glowing brighter now, almost white-hot. Her veins pulsed like living light, her body trembled. Your blood, it's mixing with mine faster than it should. Is that bad? It's not supposed to happen at all. A hidden gene awakens. Vera collapsed onto the floor. She gritted her teeth as symbols appeared on her skin, glowing, shifting like language written in light. Her eyes went wide. No, it can't be. Jace knelt beside her. What's happening? She looked up at him, her voice shaking. There's a seal in my DNA. My people locked it away long ago. It was said only a true bond, one formed from pure intent, could unlock it. Your blood did it. You broke the seal. The hunter enters. The door burst open. A tall figure in black armor stepped in, gun raised, helmet gleaming. The hunter looked at Jace, then at Vera. Target confirmed. Step away from the female. Jace stood up slowly. No. The hunter aimed. I said. Suddenly the cabin shook. The floor glowed beneath Vera. She rose from the ground, her body surrounded by light. Her voice echoed, deep and ancient. You dare threaten me, in the presence of my bond. The power unleashed. With a single motion of her hand, the hunter's weapon twisted in the air and shattered. He flew backward through the doorway, landing hard in the snow. Jay stared at her, speechless. Vera's feet touched the ground again. She turned to him, glowing brighter than ever before. I don't know what you are, human, but your blood just woke something they tried to kill long ago. They didn't just find me. They awakened me. Ending hook. Outside, more shadows moved in the woods. But Vera was no longer weak. And Jace was no longer afraid. Let them come, she said quietly. Now they'll see what a legend really looks like. The hunters arrive. Snow fell in slow silence outside the cabin. The fire inside had gone cold, but the air had never been hotter. Vera stood near the door, her eyes glowing like a golden storm. Strange symbols moved slowly across her skin like light trapped underwater. Jay stood beside her, holding his old knife. His hands shook, but not from fear. From something deeper. Readiness. They'll come fast, Vera said, her voice lower now. And they won't show mercy. Jace glanced at her glowing hands. Good, neither will we. Shadows in the snow. Out of the trees, shapes emerged. 4 hunters, all armed, moving like wolves. Their armor was smooth and black, their weapons long and sharp. One of them raised a scanner. Target is inside, energy levels spiking. Another one cursed. She's changing. Too late to back out now, let's finish it. They break in. The cabin windows exploded first, followed by a flash grenade tossed through the roof. Wood shattered. Smoke filled the air. The hunters rushed in, ready to take down a scared fugitive. But they didn't find a scared girl. They found a goddess in waiting. The stand. Vera stepped through the smoke like she owned the ground she walked on. Her hand moved once, no weapon, just will, and the grenade froze midair. Then with a flick, it reversed and flew back through the door. Boom! One hunter was thrown across the trees. Another fired, only for his pulse rifle to melt in his hands. "What is she?" he screamed. Jay stood beside her, shielding her flank. "The legend you should have left alone." A hunter turns. The lead hunter took a step back, watching the way the others fell. He saw the human, saw the bond. "This wasn't in the contract," he growled. But he didn't retreat. He raised his weapon one last time, until Vera stepped forward and said, calm and clear, "Your fight is not with me. It's with the ones who built you to hunt people like me." Her hand touched his chest. A shimmer passed through his armor. His weapon powered down. His knees buckled. He looked up at her, not with anger but understanding. "You're not what they said you were," he whispered. "No," she said, "I'm worse, I remember." The battle ends. The remaining hunters ran. They left their gear, their ship, and their mission behind. Jace and Vera stood in the clearing as snow fell again, slow and silent. "You didn't kill them," Jace said softly. "No," she replied, "because now they know the truth. I'm not the one being hunted." She looked at him. "I'm the one they fear." Ending hook. Back in orbit, a different kind of signal was sent. Encrypted, silent. It read, "Vera is alive. The human changed her. The legend is real." Far away in a deep hall of stars, an old enemy read the message. He smiled coldly. Then it begins again. She remembers his kindness. The fire crackled again in the cabin. The wind outside had calmed. Snow still drifted, but softly now, like the forest itself was resting after the storm. Jay sat on the floor, bandaging a small cut on his arm. Vera stood by the window, her golden eyes staring into the trees. For the first time, no one was chasing her. And for the first time, she looked lost. "You okay?" Jace asked quietly. She didn't answer at first. Then slowly, she turned to face him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why did you help me?" Jace looked up. "Because you needed it." "No," she said, "not just in the crash, even after you stayed." He gave a tired smile. "So?" Vera's eyes shimmered. "No one ever stays." The story she never told. She sat down across from him. The firelight danced across her face, softening her expression. "A long time ago, I was supposed to lead something great. My people said I had power, a gift passed down from old bloodlines. They raised me in shadows, trained me like a weapon." She looked at her hands, still faintly glowing. "But when I refused to be used, they turned on me. They called me unstable, dangerous. And they tried to erase me." Jay stayed quiet, listening. "I escaped, I hid for years. And the galaxy forgot me." Her voice cracked. "Until you." A bond of choice. Jace moved closer, slowly. Not to touch her, but to be near. "You're not a weapon," he said. "You're not dangerous. You're just someone who was hurt and who kept going." Her eyes filled with tears. Not glowing, just wet, human. She looked down. "When you gave me your blood, something changed. Not just in my body, in my mind." She placed her hand on her chest. "You didn't just heal me, Jace. You made me feel real again." A silent choice. They sat there in silence for a long time. No battle, no fear. Just firelight and two people who didn't understand why, but understood each other. Vera finally whispered, "Thank you for staying." Jace's answer was simple. "I'm not going anywhere." Ending hook. Above the planet, hidden in dark space, an ancient ship powered on. Inside it, voices whispered across centuries of silence. The bloodline has awakened. The heir has chosen her bond. Prepare for return. And far below, in the cabin's warm light, Vera's eyes closed for the first peaceful sleep in years. The galaxy bows to her, but she stays. 3 days passed. The snow had stopped falling. But above Earth, the stars were moving. A royal fleet, silent, silver, and massive, descended from orbit. The ships didn't attack. They hovered, waited. Inside the cabin, Vera stood by the door. No longer broken. No longer hunted. Now she stood tall, her glow steady, her presence strong. "They're here for you, aren't they?" Jace asked quietly. She nodded once. "They were never meant to follow me," she said. "They were meant to obey me." The arrival. A small, sharp ship landed just beyond the trees. From it stepped tall figures in white armor, emblems glowing on their chests. At the front walked an elder, his face calm, his voice careful. "Heir Vera, the seal has broken, the bond has been made. We come to restore your place. Your people await their legend." Jace looked at her from behind. Quiet, still, ready to let her go if that's what she chose. Her answer, Vera stepped forward. She said nothing for a moment. Then, "I remember who I am." The guards bowed. "Then come home, my lady." But Vera turned her head to look back at Jace. At the small wooden cabin. At the man who bled for her. Who stayed. Who never asked for anything in return. She looked back at the guards and said just one word. "No. A new legacy." Gasps echoed among the guards. "What do you mean?" the elder asked. "I mean I'm not leaving. But you're their future." "No," she said calmly. "I am my future." She reached for Jace's hand. "And I've already chosen where I belong." The legend changes. The ships didn't fire. The guards didn't fight. They watched the heir of 1,000 bloodlines walk back into the woods, holding the hand of a human. Not a soldier. Not a king. Just a kind man. And somehow, that made her more powerful than any throne. Epilogue: A quiet sky. Months passed. The stars remained quiet. Stories spread across the galaxy. They told of a legend who returned, but stayed on a small green world, with a man who gave her nothing, but everything she truly needed. "You really gave up a whole empire?" Jace once asked her, teasing. "I didn't give it up," Vera said, smiling. "I just chose something rarer. Someone who loved me before knowing who I was." And far above them, galactic leaders still watched Earth. Not with fear, but with wonder. The humans did what no warship could. They brought a legend back to life. White heavy check marked the end.